Hello, traders, investors. Welcome back to today's Mr. Bagel's channel. Today, there is a lot for us to talk about. All right, and also, if you do enjoy the content and the channel, please make sure you drop a comment or subscribe to the channel. That will really help us grow. Now, let's talk about the flow actually, because if you know me at all, I always talk about top-down approach when it comes to trading and investing, right? You want to make sure that you understand and are able to identify how the broader market is going. That is SPY and QQQ, which is NASDAQ. And after that point, you want to identify the sectors that are going in the direction that you want to try to follow. I always like to talk about semiconductor because that's more volatile, suits my trading style much better. But there's like technology, big tech, or financial, or consumer discretionary you want to follow along. So if you're able to identify, okay, the broad market is going good, and then the sector of, let's say, semiconductor is also going pretty well, and then from there, you want to be able to identify the individual stocks that have the setup that you want to trade on. So just wanted to show you quickly on SPY flow. These are the options flow because we know 0DTE is driving the options market, and as a result, the whole market, which is why we can see a lot of volatilities, and especially in recent years. So yeah, you see this like calls were being bought, and the market was selling puts on SPY, which means very positive gamma, right? We closed at all-time high. There is nothing bearish about this market at this point. And also wanted to point out, congratulations guys, if you were able to follow along. We printed on Applied Materials. It was really, really good. And people were just jumping on the bandwagon right at the open on Friday, right? You saw this calls, obviously some profit taking. Obviously, I mean, that's a pretty good level to take some profit off the table. I did too. Some put on the rise, and they were just so down like pretty significantly. So when you see this puts being sold while the calls are still going strong, you know this market is it's gonna be on the spotlight, that people are going long like there's no tomorrow on Applied Materials. And Meta, of course, maybe not so much at the open, but once the market were able to see, hey, this thing is not going to go down anymore, because again, I always like to emphasize, when I'm going long on the stock, I don't necessarily see how many buyers are still remain. I'm trying to see how many sellers are in the market presently. If there are no sellers, it will naturally just be picking back up, right? And this is what happened with Meta. We ramped up and maybe some profit taking, but you see, it was just profit taking, guys. Maybe some short sellers were trying to get in on this market, but because calls were not closing, this is still looking very good to me. Now, so these are the flows. I wanted to point out that these options flow can really drive the market, right? So understanding this will definitely give you an edge when it comes to decision making of picking the right stock to trade. So again, we want to talk about SPY. Obviously, very good. This is as good as you could possibly ask for on the daily. I mean, we should discount on the lower volume because it was a shorter day and even a shorter week. So if you're trying to use like weekly candles, you want to make sure that you discount that because it was a short week. Um, nice down, bought back up, closed at all-time high. And there is, at this point, you have to believe that any pullback will be made by bull demand. All right, this is as strong as it can be. Now, moving over to Nasdaq. Again, we shouldn't be worried too much about the volume on the bullish side. This is very strong close, right? At the session when we open, we pulled down a little bit, and then we were just able to pick back up and close at not so much for all-time high for Nasdaq, but this is a pretty good close, right? Highest point was 510.34. We closed at 509.74. That is pretty good. All right. I mean, at this stage, there is no weakness. There is none, right? I mean, on the hourly, we had a doji red candle, and then we just moved over and closed the higher high and higher lows on the hourly. This is as good as it gets. This is amazing. So moving over to applied materials, as we mentioned that we did take some profit off the table. I mean, when we made a higher high, this is the very natural thing to do. Obviously, we may be, leaving some money on the table, but I'm happy with where we were. So you can argue and say, hey, this is a daily reject on applied materials, but this is not a very bad close. In fact, I think this is pretty good. You're still able to see the wick, but on the increasing volume. But this is the kind of thing that you want to pay more attention to. Is that the bad thing? We had a reject and also higher volume, but you have to know that we opened way gap up, right? It was green and got sold down. You have to believe that there were a lot of sellers and a lot of buyers too on this candle. So what will provide more color is that we move over to larger time frame. Weekly on applied materials. Come on, this is so textbook, right? This is as good as that can ever be, right? Higher highs and higher lows and huge down, and then we close that with a wick and just closing right above that weekly moving average on a declining volume as well. And the extender also showing that buyers were accumulating, so that is a pretty good sign. It is still very early to say that applied material can make another new all-time high in the coming weeks, but definitely we can see this thing testing this resistance at $188.32 in the next few weeks. All right, this is good. This is a hold and potentially be adding more positions if it does get down to a certain level. Now, I mean, I would say that 2 hour is not looking as good as the weekly, but larger time frame always dictates, right? I mean, this is not a very good close. Uh, so I do expect some more downside to come, right? That's a pretty bad sell, and a lot of people are trying to get out right before the close, which is normal because people don't like to be holding 100% onto their loan positions during the holiday. We all know that whenever there's like a shorter week and stuff like that, the next day we tend to have a little bit of sell off, but that is not something to be worried about. I mean, even I would say that's a pretty good opportunity. If you miss the trade, there will be more opportunities for you to get in, right? This is our first or second wave on this new uptrend. Let's see, 4 hours, right? Up and so down. At the very early stage, people are still trying to figure out, okay, is that a bull trap or is that really a new pattern being printed as we go? So you have to respect that, okay, there will be some selling, like pretty brutal selling, but you always will be watching out for your support and resistance level, making sure that the pattern is not breaking, and then there will be just more buyers and more buyers coming into the market. The pullback will become smaller and smaller, and sometimes it can really become a one-way freight train, right? It will just like skyrocket, and you don't see any weakness at all. It can happen, not always. Hate this thing. Okay, Qualcomm obviously also took some profit off the table. This is on 2 hour. This is looking way better than applied material. But we also have to know this: the previous resistance was at $161.47. Today we had $161.54. You see, we didn't take out that resistance by a lot. Then we had a pretty brutal sell down. It doesn't tell you anything. It still is pretty bullish. It really happened because the market was selling off, more particularly in some big tech and some other semis. So this is really not telling you, hey, this is done. Rather, this is looking pretty well if you're moving over to a larger time frame, right? I mean, on the weekly, it doesn't look as good as applied materials, but we were able to make higher lows, and this time we found a pretty solid support on that moving average on the weekly, and with pretty good volume. Also, the extender was turning. That's all the bullish sign that you're looking for. Moving over to 1 hour. I mean, the last hour was pretty brutal sell. Okay, like somebody might have known something before the close, or typically it can just be like a holiday thing, right? A shorter weekend, issue long weekend, and then the people were just like, hey, you know what? I'm happy with my profits. I'm gonna go, and then I'll see you when the market opens. Respect that. Yeah, some people do that. But what we really also want to pay attention to is SMH. Again, we like to play semi, but if the market is going good, which it is, on SPY and also for QQQ, if semiconductor sector is also going well, it's really gonna bode well for Qualcomm, Applied Materials, and as a result, maybe even Nvidia, and leading over to maybe big tech. That the whole market is gonna go up because semiconductor is such a huge component in today's market. Daily, obviously, looked pretty good, right? Like we were able to sell down, and then people were just like finding the support. We pointed out on the channel before Friday that this is a pretty good close, and we can expect that there can be some rebound in semiconductor. Because again, we just made a lower low. Uh, we kind of wanted more evidence that if we're going to hourly chart, right, a big up, like buyers were committed and a little bit up, maybe meeting some resistance level up ahead. We sold down a pretty weak sell, right? But we don't know how this is gonna go. I think today is the day that we will know, right? If we somehow make a higher high on hourly chart, then this is good, right? If taking out like the previous resistance at 246.09, even better, right? Close above it, then that's full on bullish, right? But still, we can still see some weakness. Hopefully find support on this 20-hour moving average. If not, maybe at the lower support level at 236.96. If we lose that, again, it can still be a liquidity grab that people are trying to push to lower low to get all the retail to stop out and then it pick back up. All of that can be happening, right? But again, whatever happens, it will determine the bullishness of this market, right? In turn, it will determine how Qualcomm and Applied Materials and all these other stocks that will go. I did also wanted to, so XLF, that's again financial sector looking the strongest, right? On daily, on weekly, whatever you want to see, this is the strongest market right now, up after Trump election and then consolidation and up, looking like we can have some more consolidation. So if it does have the signal to have another breakout to the upside, we will point that out on the channel. But again, if you want to play financials like GPM and all those names, by all means, that's gonna make you money. All right, maybe slowly, but surely it will. Meta, we also pointed out on the channel, happened to be one of the stronger big techs on Friday. Amazon was performing very well. I didn't want to point it out on the channel, but again, Amazon is looking as good as Meta. But Meta surely has more room to run because you have to believe that if the market is still going good, we can retest on that resistance at $600 level, and that would be a pretty good margin if you're entering here today versus Amazon. Still good, but not much room for growing any further. So on hourly, I mean, this big trend is turning green. We obviously had big up at the open and selling down very lightly, right? That's very weak sell. So based on 1 hour, you see that okay, this is gonna go higher, in my opinion. Like This might even be a better setup than applied materials. See, up, down, found support, lower volume, and then higher high, higher low. Obviously, you can see that hey, around $580 because we're closing that gap. There can be some supply. But overall, again, if the market as a whole is going in the right direction, I think Meta is also going to be one of those names that will really perform in the coming weeks. All right, and that is a wrap. Thank you for tuning in on today's channel. I hope you did enjoy it. If there's any questions at all, please make sure you leave a comment so I will reply to all of that. And happy trading. Do expect another video coming your way, and we will continue to monitor applied materials and Meta and the broader market together. I'll see you again next time. Take care. Happy trading. Bye now.